Right. I went to Wakefield, played 11 terrible games for them, and was assistant coach with David Hobbs, who got the flick. And then I agreed to go with Steve Sims, who was the Halifax coach, said, will you come and be an assistant at Halifax? I went, yeah, well, it was 1996 when Brian Smith had just taken over with Matt Elliott, the era of Super League coming in. And I had to pick up my boots from, I think Fred Robinson was still here then. So I needed to pick my boots up from Fred Robinson. So I came on the way from Wakefield, where I just 30 quid for leaving or whatever it was. Called in, I said, I need my boots, my old boots, Fred, if you don't mind digging them out. And I bumped into Matthew Elliott in the top office. And he knew of me, that I'd been here quite a while. Knew that I'd played at Cronulla, knew that I'd kept in touch with people in Australia because I'd had ideas to be a coach. Oh, I'm back where you go. And then, so I bumped into Matthew. He says, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Halifax to be assistant coach. And he said, well, your club's Bradford, isn't it? I said, well, I've got a great affinity to it. I'd love to come back. So my first job as an assistant coach, I agreed to come back. The first job was to tell Steve Sims, which I drove straight away, saying, thanks for the job, but I'm resigning and I'm going back to Bradford as my own club. And it was a tough one because I quite liked Steve Sims, and he convinced me that X, Y, and Z and Halifax and things. But he understood as well that it was my hometown club and that I wanted to go back there. And that's how it started. And I'm quite honest, under Brian and Matthew for 18 months, I had no idea what I was doing. Absolutely no idea. But bit by bit, the pennies falls, and a little this and this come through, and it was an amazing place to be at that time, the momentum of the club and how strong it was, and how everybody, not just the people that used to front the club, but everybody in the club was working to make it a great place. And so you learn and you keep your head down and you do. I was working a lot of hours.
I remember, obviously, when Brian left and Matthew took over, Mick Potter came as assistant coach, and we learned something off him as well.
Yeah, I'll be a grumpy kid. Yeah, no, Mick was brilliant. I saw him recently. I've been out to Australia. I saw Mick and Matt, and we had a couple of beers together. But everybody, I used to coach the academy. I used to coach the reserves. I used to do the junior scouting. So everything you could possibly imagine you'd ever do at the highest level, I did an apprenticeship here, which helped me, kept me in really good. Plus I had the contacts in Australia, and plus the people I spoke to here, my friends and things. I had ideas on how rugby league should be played or could be played, and so thankfully I got an opportunity 4 or 5 years later when Matthew left. He recommended that I should take the job. And funnily enough, I'd just been for an interview with Huddersfield, who goes head coach there. So once again, I said, Ken Davis, and I went, thanks for your offer, but I'm staying here.
Yes, I remember Chris Casely ringing me on that night before to say that we're going to announce Nobby tomorrow, so draw the press release. And it was a start of a continuation, but the start again of unprecedented success. With a team that I think you would say that we were talking about making it a family affair, that to get the right people was better than getting the best players.
Oh, definitely. And I still go by that principle now. Good people make your team. Good players help. You need some good players. You can't be stupid. You need talent within the organisation, but in the main, it's about people who want to be here and want to do something for the club. And that was always the case here. The successful bits, and I consider as a player, we had loads of success. My first 2 seasons as an apprentice, if you like, if that's the right expression, with Jimmy and Bridgie and George and all those stalwarts, we won 2 championships. So you understood the winning philosophy, and I'm sure there'll be other teams that would have had better players in certain areas, but collectively, the talent that was enough to beat everybody else.
We signed some great players at that time, and the Joe Langenars and the Leslie Pinecoles and the Tabita Vicones. Tell us a little bit about all them and how you come to get those players.
Les was mad. I don't know anybody. He was a big ball of rocket fuel and energy, but he was mad. Joe was. I remember Joe coming back one pre-season after being home. Now Joe was a big man. And when he went away for a rest, he came back even bigger. Like he'd eaten his twin brother exactly. And I used to fret like mad about Joe. He couldn't do a lap of his field. Sometimes when he came back, I used to blame him for not getting back on time, or blame somebody. It wasn't my fault that Joe was 25 stone. But there was a trust between us. Joe used to say to me, "Coach, don't worry, I'll be ready for the start of the season." And he was. The trust, he got himself down, he did extras. They were all conscious of what they needed to be, and they knew. And they didn't want to let their mates down either. But Joe was a really, really highly skilled, really good bloke. Tavita and Laser and they were together. It was just like mill units. It's a good expression for them. They used to argue like, we used to do a review after the game about who was doing what. And those two would just argue, stand up, and accuse each other of being from the wrong part of Tonga. You're from the part of Tonga that doesn't even exist. It does exist. So it's so entertaining. Everybody used to walk out and leave me to it. So, yeah, we had some great characters, headed up by Jimmy Lawson, one of the crankiest men you've ever met in your life. Some of the things, his exit certificate sometimes is Jim. Brian McDermott started here. So, a lot of people have been through, is it a Smith system? Because you've got to have your own ideas, but a lot of people have come through and been world. Steve McNamara was my assistant for 3 years, gone on to do great things. But it was a system that we all believe in, and you put your own touches to it, and your own bits of, well, this is how I think the game should be played, or you should do it, or you should do what. So, but at the core of all that, you've got to have some fun as well. And we forget that because the rugby football is just like, everything's so opaque. You've got to be opaque. Well, I grew up in an era where we had so many characters, it was as much of a laugh as it was. I remember Paul Harkin, the little halfback who played with us. I think Jimmy and Bridgie would have missed him, but I loved Paul Harkin because he was just typically mad and box office little halfback. And this is the good side of Paul. And I tell these two stories to epitomise what the game was like then. We once went to Wigan, and I don't know if you were there, Wigan Central Park in the... I'm on. It's a message. Get rid of him. It's a message. We played at Central Park in an when they'd just gone like full-time professionals, really. Bell, Lydon. I didn't think a fire was quite there, but they had a really good side, and it was throwing it down the rain in this Challenge Cup game. It was on the old Yorkshire Cup when Yorkshire Television used to do, what's it called? Scrum Down. John Elman, Brian Smith was commentating on this one. He wasn't at the club then. He was at Hull. And it was like horrible rain, driving rain, in an era when you had to work really, really hard to get to the other end of the field, with your forwards, with this, it was mud this deep at the old Central Park. And we're getting in there, it takes us about 30 minutes to get there, and it's 0-0. And Paul Harkin just jumps up, whacks the ball, and drops a goal, 1-0. And we're all running back. I'm going, Arks, he's taking us all afternoon to get up this end of the field. What you dropped a goal for? And he just went, my mum's watching on telly. Nobody complained, went, oh yeah, fair play. And then he went to Leeds, which was a no-no then. The Leeds Bradford rivalry has always been in an era when it's the only game I wanted to play really. Even if I've no legs and no arms, I'm playing that game, don't worry, Peter. And he signed for Leeds, and he kept it quiet, I think, was the thing that upset us all. And Skerritt was still here, Fairbank was still here, John Pendlebury, they were all robust, if that's the right word, they didn't enjoy it. And they had a kid man at Leeds called Barry Adji, who was like Fred Robinson, but they ran the show and things like that. I got on really well with Barry, because he was a great bloke, wasn't he?
He was my mate, he was good.
And so we thought, we're going to upset Paul this game, because he was a good player, we didn't want him to play well against us, he was a heading. So we got 20 little 5p pieces and put them in a little velvet bag with a sign saying Judas. I went to Barry Adji and I said, Barry, when you give that to Paul, it's just like a nice letter from all the lads saying good luck today, make sure you do this. I know you got this job, you just probably gave me that. So Barry tell the story. He says he walked out, the colour of that ball, oh God, he was pale, and Craig Richards was making his debut and bashed him on top of the head like a nail, and he got carried up.
I've got a story about him. When he was at Leeds, they had a halfback called Paul Delaney, and it was coming towards the end of the season, and if you played another game, he got £5,000 bonus, and they won't pick him. So Art says to me, it was Easter Monday, and we were in the baths at Barnsley, and me and Art are talking. He says, I'm gonna feign injury if they put him on bench. He said, I'm gonna tell him I'm not fit, so they put him on bench. And after 25 minutes, he said he had to come off. And they played with 12 men, so they didn't have to come off. And that's the Leeds. So obviously, 5x5 was on the trot as well. Great achievement. And that year, that 2003, we won everything, all 4 cups, as it were. And that was a highlight. I remember speaking to Chris Casely, who I think was the perfect chairman for that time. And you used to go out drinking with him.
That's not quite true. I used to meet him. He once sent me a voicemail. It was 2003. If you remember, we lost, I think, our first 3 games that season. And he kindly sent me an ultimatum saying, win your next one or look for another job. And so I flipped my lid because I worked hard. And I went to see him. He's a hermit. He used to live at Burley Woodhead, between Ilkley and Shipley. And I think, right, I've not been this, I'm going to see him. And I've stormed across the car park. There was reasons for the 3 losses. That's some internationals, we had some people out, whatever. I thought there were reasons anyway. I was furious. So I'm storming across the car park towards Chris Casey, and he was a smart man. And he just went, don't take any notice of my voicemails, Brian. It was just a wind-up. It kind of disarmed me. We went on it was a brilliant season, 2003. The Challenge Cup at the Millennium, when I got stuck in the lift.
Yes.
So we won this cup. It was all going mental. The Army came on early. In extra time, the Bulls had won. The Army came on with all this, and the game was still going on. We were into, I thought it was going to go to extra time. Leeds had made some poor decisions on goal kicks and things like this. And I said, I've got to get down to the sideline, I've got to get down to the end of this one. I was with Mark Robinson, who's from scouting and was an assistant coach here. And the lift broke down. And I had a horrible beige suit on as well, do you remember it? They busted all this driver's suit. They put me in a suit, honestly. Some sponsor said, you need to wear this, it's awesome. I just feel like a bus driver. Anyway, so I had to go through that ignominy. And then I got stuck in the lift at the end when Lee Bradford, I think, had the ball at the end and everybody was going mental. And how did you feel when you were going mental? I said, well, I felt a bit frustrated. I was stuck in a lift.
It was a great game, that, and looking back on it now, if you speak to anybody from Leeds at that time, fans, players, everybody, they all said Bradford were out on the feet. But I don't think we were out on the feet, and you said to me after, and I agree with you entirely, we didn't have any big men on. There were no Joe Baggenhouse and Paul Anderson. So
we're taking them off because they were out on their feet. And we had Bradford on there, I think Parker was on, I think there were a lot of athletes out there. So I was really confident we'd come away with the game at the end. It was a really controversial game when you actually watched that 2003 game because Leeds claimed, well, we had a couple of tries disallowed. Well, we had 4 tries disallowed that day. There were, if you look at the actual decisions, were poor decisions against us. So we were deserving winners that day. And that particular group were great. To come away, any team that has all 4 trophies deserves the accolades that were thrown at them then. And they were entertaining. We played a good brand of football as well.
And of course, in that game, Jamie Peacock should have got the last stop and didn't.
Yeah, he should have, but he didn't. But, you know, Jamie's worldly wise enough to know that don't always get what you deserve.
So let's go back a bit further. What about the coaches? Some of the coaches you played under, what were they like? You played obviously with Peter, I think Barry Seymour.
Barry was brilliant, Ron was different. Peter was probably, I had him the most when I played. So every week he used to say to me, that's not good enough, that'll never be anything, you can't play. And at one point I got to the point, well, you picked me 350 times, so you thought you'd have made your mind up by now. But he was one of his ways of motivating, a great motivator, Peter, and I was scared of him in the era when I was coming through because he was such a great coach, he was this, that and the other. I remember him being a witness once, and we're I don't know, games going this way and that way. The funniest one is down here though, the Leeds, I got suspended along with Paul Medley. Now, when Paul Medley came from Leeds with Peterborough, he had a problem as a player. What was it? He was blind, basically, wasn't he? You kept dropping the ball at the wrong times. But if you put Paul and the ball together, watch out. He was like the forerunner to the modern Matt Rower, if you like, built on Wayne Pearce skills and things like that. He was quick, he was dynamic, great bloke, but every now and again he used to drop the ball to everybody's frustration. And we used to have the Friday night game here against Leeds every year usually, and used to really enjoy that. And I'm suspended, so I'm stuck by the box with Peter, who's motivating really, really well and everybody. I don't know if you remember Roger Simpson. Roger was playing on the wing then. Well, you couldn't get two different blokes. You got Roger, who's 5'6" and black from Huddersfield, and you got Meadows, who's 6'2", 16 stone. You couldn't make a white bloke. So there's so difference in appearances. It was unbelievable. And we're going down the right side. Who was the blonde-haired back row that Leeds had there? He had curly blonde hair. Didn't play for a while. Anyway, he drops the ball. Roger picks it up. Jinx, like Rog, nobody else could jink like Rog. Rog goes in and out, and he's going for the corner. And he dives, Mendes is on the bench, remember? And he dives for the corner. And this corner here, we used to have the upslopes like this. And he drops the ball, there's Roger going all the way to score. And Peter's going nuts, he's going, Meadows! Oh, Meadows! And Meadows is on the bench. And Meadows said, pardon me, Peter? And he was saying, yes, but it's the kind of thing you'd do. He was never on Peter. If you learn anything from Peter is you've got to have an opinion, and you've got to have a strong opinion on what you believe in and what you've done. And he was always right, Peter. And he was a brilliant, brilliant motivator. In an era when he believed, and I think he's right, I think drifting back that way now after years of overcoaching from coaches, idiots like me and other coaches that try and impress on people, is that your team comes from the players. Your team is about your players and their knowledge of the game. It's not about my knowledge of the game. So I always kind of trust players to do and perform how we want them to.
I remember Peter when he went to Leeds and did a Radio Leeds program with John Boyd, and John Boyd said to him, well, you've got a bit of a reputation as a forwards coach, and Leeds like to play in the backs and throw the ball now. How will you play at Leeds? He said, David and John Holmes will decide how we play at Leeds, not me.
Yeah, and it's a fair point, and they were two great footballers, weren't they? David and John Holmes. But I do believe that the lessons that I learned about big people in the game, if you look at that Bradford pack that I started with, like Jimmy, Ian Van Bellen, Gary Van Bellen, his son, George in the back row, Dennis Trotter, Neil Fox, they were all big men. Front rowers, Colin Forsyth, God rest his soul, and things like that. They were big, good footballers as well. They knew how to little twos players that we coach now and say, I'm a genius. And we're not geniuses, the players are the geniuses.
And one of them we haven't spoke about, Jeff Creation.
Oh, big Jeff. Well, he was in the back row. Do you know he started life as a fullback at Dewsbury? Went through the ranks, was a brilliant back rower here, and then went up into the front row. But again, he was 6'4", was Jeff, 6'5". So the principle of going forward, it's like British Bulldogs out there. The game's easy. They paint the field north to south. So the first thing I encourage when I'm coaching is you've got to be able to go north to south first, and then the rest of it's on the back of that.
So, Barry Seymour?
Barry was brilliant for me because he trusted me a little bit more on the football side of things, to run the show, to get the thing right, and give the ball to the house when they wanted it. So we had Hobbsy in there as well. They liked to pinch the ball a lot, did Hobbsy, and he wanted the ball a lot, and understandably, he was a smart footballer. So yeah, Barry was, it didn't empower me, but made me play a little bit differently and try different things and be more part of where we're trying to go. So Barry was brilliant. Ron Willie was a bit different. He was my first access to an Aussie coach. He'd won 2 premierships with Manly, so he was really, really well qualified, so he had all the credentials, but he was a typical Aussie. And it was like a clash of cultures. So in our changing room was Calvin Skerritt, Carl Fairbank, again John Pendlebury, I think obviously was still here. Substantial people had an opinion on the game and worked as well. Now, Ron Willie was one of the initial ones for putting signs up everywhere. success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. Well, with a lot of pragmatic people that were touchy-feely and did, so out in practice they did, and certainly weekends they did. And it didn't go down to, well, you know, you'd go to the toilet and close the door and be, must try harder. I said, I can't, I'm trying to write it in the toilet. And yeah, he clashed within the team, so a lot of things within the team that he did, there were good ideas, and you pick up, but you probably think, well, what do that? I like that bit. I think that's what good coaches do. They look at what works and what they think works, and how it would fit in what they think in relation to people.
And then to move on to 2005, that was the last time the Bulls won the Grand Final. That, I think we won 12 straight games to get to the Grand Final after having a pretty poor season up to then.
I don't think people appreciate from 1996, when the Super League, like 97, the first season of Super League, to 2007, Bradford was at the forefront of world rugby. Everybody that used to come here, when Brian was there, and then Matt and me, were wanting the ideas as to how you create. This was a phenomena out of here. Trust me, a phenomena that in sport that somebody should document. Because the rise and the whole of the city, I used to go to work in town or wherever I used to go, and the whole joint was bouncing. The football club was doing well. Bradford City were in the Premier League. We used to go drinking together with the Bradford, both professional clubs. We used to rule the roost in the community, in the schools, and it was literally, you could feel if we were successful. People with, and I mention this a lot, not mundane jobs, but people with jobs on a Monday morning used to go with a smile on their face because of what we'd achieved at the weekend. And the community feel, particularly here. I remember us getting carried away again, probably late, so just short of 30,000 here. The pre-match entertainment was a gospel choir. Well, I used to go sit out Westgate Baptist Church. I wouldn't go in because the thing might burn down when I was a kid, and listen to all the gospel singing. Well, I got carried away, and I think you come and grab me, mate. They're kicking up in 2 minutes. What do you do? I'm doing this. One's at the back of these purple gowns. I'm not going to enjoy this. It was a phenomenon, truly a phenomenon. But it's achievable again. I do feel that. Maybe not in the same form, but the community, it's been stuck here. It hasn't quite died in all the adversity that they've had over the last 10 or 11 years. I genuinely think the place is on such a good footing now. It can go again, maybe not in the same form, but similar to have the kind of experience that all my family had, other people's families had, and be successful. 2005 was just a belief issue. It was just an issue that we knew we'd lost some games, and if you look at the reasons why we'd lost the game, it was all measurable. The amount of injuries we'd had and everything, we just couldn't get any momentum. And we had a lot of players that were leaving, so with success, and local players as well that we produced, I'd helped produce before I became head coach, were leaving. And it became a pivotal moment. I think you remember down at Woodhouse Grove in the season, we lost at Wakefield 44-12, we were embarrassing. Well, this is embarrassing. We've got to get to the bottom of all of these contracts, and who's leaving, and who's not leaving, and what legacy did we want for this current team in 2005. And it's heartwarming now to think about that meeting, but boy was it tough. I got them all in at, I think, 5:30 at Woodhouse Grove. Some people knew something was wrong to get me in 5:30 in the morning. And the meeting took 4 hours between the players and myself. So Leon was leaving, Lee Bradford was leaving, I think Jamie Peacock was going to Leeds, Rob Parker was going. They hadn't been offered, because with success they deserve a certain amount of pay, and the club couldn't do it with salary cap. They couldn't keep everybody. With some young people coming through, I didn't really have a say on who could stay and who couldn't stay, because there's one decision I fell out with Chris out over that it doesn't need to be in the public environment now. But it was a difficult time, and we got to the point where we found a way forward together. We said, right, this is how we're going to finish, and we went on I think it ended up being a 14-game winning streak. And at no point, maybe the semi-final, did I think we were going to be beaten, because everybody was on the same Sonship, if you were keeping the people like Wigan, and you're keeping the people like Nicole, or you're keeping Harper, you're keeping on, there was some damage. And we lost some players, but they left in the very, very best possible way after that meeting.
Yeah, I remember the semi-final at St Helens.
Yeah, it was a tough game, wasn't it?
It was a very tough game.
I think Fontaine scored late on.
Yeah, the game. Yeah.
What a good player he was.
So then, obviously, you finished at Bradford and you ended up at Wigan.
Yeah. I did. And it was on the, I was mates with Paul Jewell, who was the late Bradford City football manager. And he rang me saying, Dave Whelan and Maurice Lindsay wants to speak to you. I said, what about? I'm at Bradford, it's 2006. So there was a couple of things. The board was in a bit of flux here. It was here, there, and everywhere. I don't know what they're doing. I think there were some financial pressures on the club. And I think Maurice, typical Maurice, had come in and offered some money for me. Anyway, so I didn't know anything about it. And so Peter Hood, who was then manager, said, listen, Wigan have come in for you. I said, well then. He says, what do you want to do? As always, I'm not one for sticking around somewhere I'm not wanted. So I kind of just put it on the said, well, what do you want to do? Now, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? If somebody had said, we want you to stay, we want you to get, I would have probably stayed because it wasn't anything to do with Wigan. But they said, oh, well, we'll give Wigan permission to speak to you. Well, to me, in a little embryonic biopsy mind, thinking, well, if they've got permission to speak to them, they don't want me to stay. So I took that stubborn, what are you doing that for? No, anyway, so whatever it is, I ended up going to Wigan and Maurice Lindsay. And to be fair, part of me thought, well, if I need to find out whether I can do this somewhere else. Now, this was painting the bridge, because Brian Smith and Matthew Elliott had done a brilliant job here. So all I had to do was paint the bridge. So I spent 5 years painting the bridge. At Wigan, it was a complete rebuild. The joint was feral. The young kids were all over the place. There was stories and happenings every night. The playing staff was appalling. Not appalling as in people, but as in talent and what they tried to do and what they tried to do on the coaching staff. So it was a complete rebuild, which I loved for 3.5 years. And I knew when I left the joint, I'd done 2 semi-finals, a major semi-final that we robbed at the Saints. And I knew they were going to win, but Ian Lennigan had taken over by then. And basically, I didn't get on with Ian Lennigan, so I knew I wasn't going to stay there. But I enjoyed it, and it reinforced my belief that if you do X, Y, and Z, if you're a mechanic and your car's bust, it's something to do with the engine. So you have to look at the engine. And rugby league's no different. If you've got a certain amount of principles of what's not working, you need to know what to fix to get improvement. And then I went on my travels. I went to North Wales, which was the same. I went to Toronto, Salford for a couple of years, and I didn't leave any joint in a worse state than when I went there. So I'm really pleased about all the places. The only place I didn't really enjoy, and it goes back to this people thing, was Salford. Because Marwan was, dang, I love you. And you know he didn't, I love you. So he used to do things, and the staff there. So day one at Salford was, right, I'm going to Salford. So I drive past Salford, I'm on the A650, and I go to a club that's training in Leigh, at Leigh Sports Village. I'm thinking, I've just gone past the sign for Wigan and the sign for Leigh, and I'm coaching Salford. So that was about taking them back to Salford and being in Salford. But it was just the environment wasn't good. I enjoyed it to a point, and then it became difficult. And it's probably why I stepped away from coaching after Salford. And thought, well, do I need that kind of hassle from owners and directors rather than my biggest asset I would feel is with people. I like people.
Well, one thing we've skipped over completely, the Great Britain coaching job.
Oh yeah, I did that as well.
How did that come about?
How did that come about? So David Wade was the great. So David Wade, Greg McCallum, people criticise Australians in our game. Unjustifiably. I got the same angst about Australians as anybody. I'm not a people. Basically, my bottom line is the couple of blokes in the back who did it. And I spent my whole life, because they are, can be, not are, brash, effrontery, all those kind of things that you pick out those. So David Wade came over as the head coach, and Greg McCallum came to run the rugby league. Now, for 3 years, I thought they did a brilliant job. outstanding job. And I was assistant today. He asked, would you be my assistant? I went, yeah, so I picked up things from him. I've been under Brian. Jack Gibson, who was in Australia, I'd always had a bit of an affinity for because I played for him at Criminal and he kept in touch and things like that. So I had lots of influences from there. But the overriding belief was I grew up watching 79 here. You know, we just call them Dad's Army, the Great Britain Dad's Army team. And interestingly enough, there's a Lions luncheon on Saturday that I'm really, really looking forward to. I normally get to see Jimmy and Keith there because it's held in Bradford, but it's Wigan this year. So, sorry, one story, so I to get to be the Great Britain coach. So I'm just pretty much a progression. David Wade was leaving and said, you should be the man that takes over. I'm really proud. It was a tough competition then, but I also believe that our best players are still the best players, as good as any Australian players. And that's right throughout. We just don't have as many. So what they've got 5 or 6 of, we might have 1 of them. And if that one isn't available at the end of the year, it becomes a tougher challenge. I firmly believe in the talent. And I think one of the issues for our game at the moment is ensuring that our young people are given the opportunity, but there are less and less. But that's life, you know, not many people are playing. I think football's probably kicking the trend, but kids do, you know, we've got to encourage them to play what I think is a life lesson sport, which is rugby league, but they've got lots of challenges. They've got Xbox, they've got social media, they've got everything that goes with this modern era. So it's a challenge.
How did you get back to Bradford then, where you are now?
Good question. Nigel Wood, for all his faults and all his bad image, will you ever look at what we're doing, what we're trying to do? It's been a bit wayward for Brian Smith gave me some advice that was probably wrong. He said, once you leave a club, don't ever go back and don't be involved. So I recommended Steve McNamara get the job because he was my assistant and I knew how talented he was and the systems he'd been through. I said, so if I'm leaving, which the decision came out, Steve Mack gets the job. But Brian said, don't ever go anywhere near him, let him do the job, which is different. As another, my immediate brain took that as saying, don't go anywhere near the club, don't go in. I used to come and watch some games on the terraces, glasses and a woolly hat, seriously, because I didn't want people associating me with the club again when somebody else was running it. And that got to a point after 5 or 6 or 7 years where I just wouldn't come back. Not because I didn't want to, but because I thought, well, what's the point of going back? I left there. And then Nigel said, will you come and have a look? Which led to me understanding that probably my best talent is with the players. I was director at Toronto, did a great job there. If you look at the results and the club, and the fact that we set up 2 bases, one in Manchester and one in Toronto, we got to 12,000 people in Toronto. And the rugby league, just to kick it out, and it cost them any money, it was one of those unbelievable decisions. That, anyway, that's another angst of mine. So I came back and would you go down and look at the football operation? So I gave them advice and things like that. Then they got to a situation where they needed to fill a hole on the coaching front. And I said, well, I don't want to be front and centre. I've done all the front and centre business before. I don't want to be able to do some recruitment play, I'll do some hiring and firing, I'll get some people in the joint and I'll help Lee Greenwood. If Lee Greenwood's choice to go to the end of the year, I'll help him. I like Lee, I think he's got a lot of talent. But with all young coaches, they can make some good decisions and bad decisions, as we all do. So I jumped down last year, and to be fair, I thoroughly enjoyed it when I went down Tuesday and Thursday nights and gave them some of the old stuff and gave them some of the principles of play and some of the things that 20, 30 years and the playing experiences from the lessons I learned at the back of the room. Giving new players want it as much as old players. They want information, they want to know how to get better if you've got the right people. And I think they've got a good group of players at the moment. And I think Eamon is probably the right person with the league to take it forward. And so I'll still help out, still go down there, but it's just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, and I'm probably the grumpy one who gives everybody bad news.
Yeah.
No.
So, where do you see the ball's going? Can they get back to Super League? What around with
Definitely, I think the franchise business, however we call it, this IMG thing, is a good thing for the Bulls. I personally believe we have to reinforce that with performances on the field, because I think we're all into a point where, not that we all want to win, but we want to see effort. One of the issues when I came 18 months ago was there was a lack of effort out there. And that's not a deliberate decision from a player, it's just that they don't really want to be here. They're probably taking some money that they're getting and they're staging a career. So it's really important that we get the right people on the field. I think we've got that. I think we need to like that, to be competitive. I'd like us to be in the top 3 or 4 this year, so that we can say to IMG, listen, we've improved some bits here, this bit's going really, really well, there's a good feel about the place, the numbers are going up, everything's going up. There's an opportunity for this club to be back in the big time, and I think it could be at the end of this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Noble. Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the